Alright, today we're having a look at Cosmic Trip by MajorMaximusLBP. Alright, so here we are in Fly Away by Chigao Cosmic Trip by MajorMaximusLBP. And the level select tells us low gravity, challenging platformer, and I'm a fan of those. This reminds me of a level that we played not too long back on stream. I think it was called Bulb Head. Now I'm really liking the effect of how those little bits of sticker material are changing the gravity. That the green ones are giving us low grav. Oh, don't do this! Loading screen, no! I actually let it set for a while at the beginning of the level before we actually started up because I was worried the loading has been a bit of a thing recently. Maybe we'll go over time a little bit, but loading screen, why you gotta be like this? I like this. It also reminds me a little bit of a Silhouette that we looked at a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago now. But the addition of the background softens it a lot and makes it a little bit easier on the eyes, which I really appreciate. This is pretty nice so far. It's a little bit tough to get a feel for the flow of the level right now. But maybe it's just because it's first time with me engaging with it. Not every level lends itself to that right off the jump. Now, I mean, of course we're going to be able to make this, right? Nice. Maybe a little bit too generous, honestly. But I'm glad that we didn't die. Now, oh, fudge! Nice, easily accessed kill box there. Kill box? Kill floor? Drop ceiling? I don't know. Thing that kills us when we drop too far. Didn't make us wait around for an hour getting to the bottom of the screen. It was just like, nope, you can't save yourself from this point, and so we're just going to kill you so you can get moving again. I appreciate that. Doopy doopy doop. Nothing too hard so far. It doesn't feel slippery, and I don't know why I missed that jump. I do like it's a little detailed, but the way that the I don't know if that's something that Major Maximus has done, or if that's just an effect of the materials, but the way it looks like the outline materials are kind of blinking on and off. Not super visible, but just enough that you know it's there, and I think that's kind of a neat little technique. Something to give a little bit more visual flair to a level that might otherwise lack it. We don't always want to go overboard with visual flair, especially if it's kind of breaking the aesthetic that we're building up in material choices and things like that. But a little bit of visual flair can definitely go a long way, and I think it's working here. Pace does feel like... I feel like I'm getting a better handle on the flow, but it still feels... Oh, fudge! That's our alarm. We're gonna be back in just a second. Let me get over there. Yosh! Alright, we're gonna talk about this back at the hub. We'll see you there. See yas! And we're back, and Cosmic Trip by MajorMaximusLBP, and I'd say it's a solid on yellow square. It's a nice, straightforward gimmick platformer with pretty good visual presentation and well-implemented gimmick throughout the level. Now, I've actually got a fair amount of experience reviewing Major Maximus's levels, going way back to 2017 on the old review show, Roughly 50 Minutes Fresh. We looked at a level that seems to be no longer available called Sackbots Don't Swim, which was not like super duper great. But then in LBsP 100, that's back in the before, so that's actually lost media. That episode will never be available again. But we looked at Rusty Metal, and I actually listened to that episode, even though it did cause me kind of psychic damage, and I found it very interesting that a lot of the things that I appreciated about Rusty Metal are things that I also appreciated about Cosmic Trip. And the big one is that the gimmick in the level, here we've got the green sticker material that when you pass through, and it makes it kind of a low gravity situation. Then when you pass through the red sticker material, then it makes it a higher gravity situation, or at least the gravity seems to be baseline for what a regular level would be in LBP. And like that gimmick is implemented throughout the level. It's not something that's just a one and done, just, you know, toss it in there and see how it works, and then everything else is completely separate from that. Like, the gimmick is core to the level, it's core to the level design and the gameplay, and I really appreciate that. When we put these power-ups in levels, or when we put special gimmicks in levels, and they don't always have to be in use throughout the entire level, but to make it feel like they have a purpose, and that's something that you definitely see on display in Cosmic Trip. Now, as far as how that gimmick feels to actually play, and I personally do have not like a huge issue, but also not really a huge love for low gravity jumping levels. I find it really tends to throw off the pace a lot because you're moving so much slower, and also when you've got big jumps, you'll notice that you do like a little bounce as you hit the ground, and you have to wait until you come down from that second bounce before you can actually start moving again. So to go from that low gravity, and then you're bouncing back into the regular gravity, but the regular gravity also has a lot of start and stop in it because the jumps need to be a little bit more precise as opposed to the floaty jumps in the low gravity. And I did find that the pace of the level was a little bit slow, even though I did appreciate like the actual gameplay of it. It's kind of a weird split feeling there where, like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not particularly zippy either. And I do feel that when you've got levels that are a little bit less in visual presentation, less to look at in the levels, it does help to have a pace that's a little bit quicker or a little bit more challenging, so that you've got focus somewhere else, that the player's not quite noticing that there's a lack in the visual presentation of the level. Now, the visual presentation, though, I did want to say that, like, I liked the little bits in the visual presentation. I thought it was super cool the way that it's cued to the player that you've triggered one of the gravity zones, where the background brightens up a little bit, it gets kind of softer, a little bit more pastel, and actually the sound as well dampens when you're in that low gravity field, and then you've got a slightly darker background, you've got a slightly sharper sound when you're in the regular gravity fields. Like, that was really cool. That's something that I really like, that when we've got these gameplay changes in our levels, that we're clearly communicating them to the player, that they're not going to miss what's going on, and you definitely don't miss what's going on here. So that was really cool. Another thing that I thought was cool, and in kind of this little visual presentation sense, like I mentioned in the video, that you've got this kind of, like, the light on the blocks is moving along as you're moving along. It's not following you, it's not tracking you, which would have been really cool, but would have also been thermo intensive. But there is like movement where the lights are getting a little bit brighter and a little bit softer as you're going through. And I thought that as well was just really neat. It's not something that just like screams out at you, but it is something that you notice as you're going through the level, and I thought that was cool. That was a really nice bit. Another thing about the gameplay that I really appreciated, and something that I come back into when we're building obstacles, especially when we're building obstacles that are around one of these like new mechanics or new gimmicks or power-ups, that we give the players a chance to practice with them before we go and make it difficult. So in this level, like, you've got a lot of time where you're just doing the jumping and the basic platforming, and there's not really any hazards that you're running into. Then you've got static hazards that are introduced. You've got those like the electrified circuitry-ish kind of looking things that you've got to jump over in the higher gravity. Then you've got spikes added into those. Then later on, about 3/4 in the level, you start to see moving hazards that you're starting to have to navigate there. Now, like, none of those ever build up to be serious challenges, and by my third playthrough, I think I only got one death, and it was a really sloppy death. I probably could have done that level and aced it without any problem. So, like, you're not going to be confronted with a super high-end challenge, but the fact that these challenges do build up, the player is given lots of time to just internalize how this mechanic is going to be working throughout the level. I think that that is great, and I absolutely love to see it when I find these levels that have got, you know, power-ups and got new mechanics in them. So like, that's a serious hats off bit to Major Maximus. Now, something that I did notice in the level, and this is definitely in your mileage may vary bit, but there are a pretty large number of community prizes in the level. Some of them are like actual objects, some of them are logic bits. Like, it's not for me, and I find them to be honestly a little bit of clutter, but I know that's not everybody, and especially the logic bits. Like, I think it's really cool that those have been given away in the level, but if you're someone who doesn't like to get a lot of objects in your poppet, you may want to turn off the collect or accept community objects toggle in the settings, because like otherwise, if you're going for points, if you're going for score, you're gonna wind up with like, I don't know, like 8 or 10 things in there. So that's a lot of deleting to do later on. That's a small bit that might just be a me thing, as I mentioned, but it's there. It's something to keep in mind. Now, as I said, like, Major Maximus has been creating levels for quite a while. This is, I believe, their second account, and there's a third account, Major Maximus X, as well. So if you find that you enjoy this creator's levels and you want to give them more of a look, and some of them have been chosen for team picks, so they've been well regarded by the community, but you can search around for Major Maximus X, and I don't remember what the name of the third account was, like the original account, but it's like maybe Major_Maximus LBP or Major_Maximus _LBP. It's something like that, but maybe that account's not active anymore, because I searched for it but I couldn't find it. But anyways, it's really good creator, very fun levels. This one was great. This is a follow-up level. If you're gonna play this one, play Lighthead previous to doing it. It's featuring the same special, like, costume for the character, a little bit of a bright costume, but making more sense in the Lighthead level, because it's a darker environment. I actually liked Lighthead a little bit more. You've got a bit, you know, you got bits where the level is kind of building itself as you're running, and I think that was really neat and interesting. We played it on stream a while back, but it's definitely worth a play. So play that one first, then come back and play this one. And yeah, now I've said everything, and that pretty much does it for us here this go about. So from me, Disco, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.